Approved. Approved. Ain't got shit with me no more. Approved. Alright. Hey Jenny, do we got any more appointments coming in? I'm trying to make sure everything goes swimmingly and smooth, so that way I can make sure the transition of power goes over to the new CEOs just fine before I leave. After all, it's my last day, so what we got? Okay, alright, go send those boys in. I got just a thing for them. Gentlemen, come on in, sit right down. Actually, don't sit down, come have you out here fast. You can say corn cold and a flop cold.
Excuse me, what the actual fuck?
Anyway, you're probably wondering what I plan on doing now that I'm gonna retire from this PlayStation company. And I was talking to my good friend Mark Sony last night. Man, that man with the voice of NyQuil. Anyway, we was talking last night and we came to the ultimate conclusion of why not give the consumer what we initially promised to give them back in 2020, now in 2024 with more exorbitant prices. So we came up with the perfect advice that's gonna help the hardcore gamer, a lot of those people who don't know any better about technology, with the perfect advice that's gonna keep y'all straight after my retirement. That's what we came up with this little device right here.
What the fuck is that?
This little device is called the PlayStation 5 Pro. Just like the name suggests, it's the pro version of the game console that we promised initially to give them back in 2020, but with all the bells and whistles. It has 67% more compute power, 28% faster memory, 45% rendering in-game action thanks to the new AI upscaler, and the new PSSR technology, also called PISA that I call it. It's gonna give all the games even more better graphical fidelity than ever before. It's gonna run all of our consumers a very high and absorbent price range this holiday season for a low price of $699.99. That's right, boy. It gets even better. This is for the digital version. If you want the physical version with the disc drive, that's gonna run you an additional $79.99, bringing the grand total to $779.99. God damn. Yes, I know it's the most expensive console we ever produced in our company's history. Yes, I know it's not gonna sell as much as other consoles thanks to the high exorbitant price range. But you know what? We PlayStation, at the end of the day, they're gonna buy it anyway. And now that it's my last day here, I might as well get a few things off my chest. Herman Host, I don't know what you got going on with this here calling this show baby, but I hope everything you ever did in your entire life and your future financial endeavors comes crashing and burning down all around you. Roger, I never could stand you looking at me with your old pimple head ass in the morning. You need to get that fixed. Samantha, I don't know what you got going on with them shoes, but get them fixed as fast as possible. Now, if you excuse me, I got a date with the Pink Pony with my good friend Don Matrick and Peter Molyneux. I'm signing out, bitches. Good night. What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel where we're putting the pro on procrastination while upgrading your console. My apologies for dropping this one late, but I really feel like I'll be doing you guys a disservice by not taking my sweet time and rushing out a quick review just to get my review out within the release window. And I really want to put this thing through its paces and see what's really about. So I'm going to be giving you guys a complete lowdown and my honest opinions on whether or not this very piece of expensive technology is worth your investment, or if you're perfectly fine with just sitting out the remainder of this generation with your base PS5 or not. So without further ado, let's get into it. The packaging itself is pretty nice looking. I always did appreciate the black box as opposed to the white one that came with the digital version. And yes, that is a disc-free logo that you see sitting nice and pretty at the top right hand corner of the box. As if Sony was doing you some type of favor by not worrying about those pesky physical games that you probably spent the better half of a decade collecting. But now, fuck all that, this looks better. As you can see on the back of the box, it's advertising what improvements comes with the PS5 Pro. Features that include their new PSSR technology, which stands for PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution. TLDR, it improves the overall visual quality and fidelity with the enhancement of the AI upscaler to better display resolution to better facilitate 4K native image, which basically means a better overall optimized performance for consoles, and to give a more stable frame rates anywhere from 60 to 120, which honestly is a bit perplexing, seeing how the OG PS5 at the start of the generation was basically promised the exact same thing, with 60 FPS being the standard, even had quite a few titles that released at the time in the past 4 years with up to 120 frames per second. With titles such as Call of Duty Cold War, Fortnite, and God of War Ragnarok, just to name a few. But with the PS5 Pro, it's supposed to help keep those frame rates on a more consistent basis. And last but not least, advanced ray tracing, which is just more ray tracing, but better, I'm assuming? Look, they was probably scraping the bottom of the barrels with this one, but I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt till I see this in action for myself. The box itself is almost around the same size as the standard PS5 Slim box, probably weigh just a bit more. You get the standard DualSense controller, power cables, HDMI cable, but it is missing that silver vertical stand that's advertised online. And you would think for $800 Sony would include this super inexpensive piece of metal and plastic. Sony really be out here adopting that Apple philosophy, I see. Look-wise, it's damn near identical to the PS5 Slim, just with the added side vents. But size-wise, it's around the same height as the OG PS5, which is pretty impressive feat if you ask me. Now you probably already noticed the blue color faceplates I had swapped out for my PS5 Slim. I didn't buy an additional disc drive for my Pro, I pretty much just swapped it over from my old system just for the purpose of this video. And interestingly enough, the side plates appear to be the exact same size and dimensions, so you would probably think to yourself, oh yeah, I could just swap out my already owned plates onto my Pro for a more customized experience, right? Yeah, about that. Turns out only the bottom plates are compatible, right down to the exact same form factor. And I didn't have to force them in by any means at all, they just went straight in as if they were made for the thing. Now the top plates on the other hand, they don't fit at all. Upon further inspecting, turns out the incision holes are circular as opposed to the ones being more rectangle shaped, and they're definitely about 1 to 2 centimeters further apart compared to the Pro and the Slim model. I don't know why in Sony's infinite wisdom they thought this was even a remotely smart idea. I mean, if they're so similar in terms of shape and size but just a few notches over in terms of difference, yeah, they definitely could have made these more compatible with the Pro. Now they'll have to have 2 different SKU types for essentially the exact same mode with just a different shape in terms of the incision holes. Nice PlayStation, just nice. Alright then, now for the real reason you guys even clicked on this video to begin with, that being the performance. And trust me, I got you guys covered. After the initial setup and the console transfer, I went right to testing a pretty good sample size of games that I had, some of which have varying degrees on noticeable performance and visual improvements, right down to barely noticing any much difference at all. I tested out PS5 games that advertised the PS5 Pro enhancements, normal PS5 games without the Pro patch, and various PS4 games that technically were demanding even for the base PS4 and PS4 Pros when those systems were still at their newest. I figure having a good mix of various titles will give you guys and myself a good gauge on what you'll be in for with this upgrade. I won't be showing off all of them just for the sake of time, but I will be pointing out the most important ones throughout this video, and the ones I'm going to be highlighting are the games as followed: Spider-Man 2, Space Marines 2, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Final Fantasy 16, Stellar Blade, Dragon's Dogma 2, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Batman Arkham Knight, and Far Cry 3. First game we have up is Spider-Man 2. This is one of the first games Sony showed off during the PlayStation 5 Pro's unveiling, touting a very impressive super ray tracing which gives games realistic reflections from various surfaces of windows that you swing by throughout the city, car window reflections, and water reflections. I'll just stop here so you can guys take a look for yourself.
It's fine. We'll be back before we know it.
Good, because I had my college application review with the school counselor.
Oh, you finished your essay?
Haven't started.
Oh, well, let's get to the city and take care of Marco quick then.
Want to get downtown fast.
Swing it through Brooklyn. Jameson have you on the ground for the bugle?
Still can't believe old Triple J is your new boss.
Really loving the new regime.
You'll whip him into shape in no time. Yoga. Must be more of a Pilates guy. That was your idea? Never said it was a good one. It was supposed to be a normal day. Teach physics, have awkward conversations in the teacher's lounge. Use the stairs, everyone! Gotcha! Spider-Man, think you can sign for this delivery? It's coming in hot.
Now that you guys had a brief taste, I figured we'd make this a bit more of an interactive experience. So we're gonna play the guessing game with this one, and let's see if you guys spot the difference between the PS5 and the PS5 Pro versions. Let's have a go, shall we? Now from this image alone, can you tell which one is the Pro version and which one is the normal PS5 version? You got 5 seconds starting right now. Now if you guessed that the image on the left is the PS5 Pro version and the one on the right the standard PS5, then you got it right. And if that's the case, you have a very promising future in forensic science for sure. Now note, there is a noticeable change with the enhanced hardware, but in most cases, you're still most likely to choose between fidelity mode and performance mode, and sometimes balance mode depending on the game as well. Which does suck a little, won't lie, but for the improvements that it does add, it is still pretty nice. I mostly played on performance mode, mainly during the fast-paced combat action scenes where you have to maneuver through the air. It was a pretty good experience. I always personally value my frame rate over resolution, every single time, unless it's running something like sub HD at 480p or something like that. You can miss me completely with that shit. Next up we have a Stellar Yams, I mean Stellar Cheeks. Damn, I always keep messing that one up. Stellar Blade, there we go. In this game, honestly, I was a bit more impressed than I was with Spider-Man 2, mainly with having a pro mode that takes full advantage of the hardware, giving you a much better 4K image quality, thanks to the upscaler. And with it utilizing VRR for variable refresh rates that gives you damn near a perfect 80 frames per second. Take a look for yourself.
It wasn't an alpha, but it was a strong one.
There's no call.
The Pro Max is on full display with this one, essentially being the quality mode running uncapped perfect for VRR displays. The Pro mode is more interesting, however, as it utilizes both a high internal resolution and PSSR upscaling, so essentially you're getting a smoother image quality without impact for frame rate performance, which is a big W in my books. As like the first game, let's see if you can spot the difference between the Pro version and the PS5 version, starting in 3, 2, 1. If you guess the one on the left is the PS5 Pro version and the one on the right is the standard PS5 version, then good job. I'm starting to see that you were an absolute pro when it came to finding Waldo in elementary school. Next up we got Dragon's Dogma 2, and I gotta be honest with this one. I played it when it first released and I absolutely enjoyed it, but the main hindrance I had with it was with the frame rate performance, and this thing will absolutely tank during intense gameplay moments, with such moments like having multiple enemies on screen at once, and even the large scale enemies like Cyclops. And don't even get me started on the Titan and in-game dragon fights. Those were beyond PowerPoint slideshows. Now we're stepping into the realms of being something akin to like the Tiger handheld games from back in the day, if you guys remember those things. And yes, you heard me right, the Tiger fucking handheld. Those things are absolutely atrocious, and that's how bad it got. It was definitely one of those games I was looking forward to the most, getting some type of post-game launch patch from Capcom, and this was before the PS5 Pro was even officially announced. This game alone was damn near a night and day difference from my experience that I had earlier this year. With the PS5 Pro's balance mode, which sits between performance and graphics modes, which is already present on the base PS5, performance mode renders it natively at 720p, which balances between 1080p. And finally, the quality mode, which runs at a higher 1440p resolution. All are reconstructing to a 4K target resolution using the PSSR technology, with some modes allowing you to change ray tracing settings on and off. Note, you'll see some better quality of ray tracing and prioritizing graphics and settings compared to performance mode, but both do offer options if you want to try it for yourself.
I shall lead the charge! prison. I knew you loved this world too much to leave it behind.
So this is definitely another W in my books, but I really just wish we had this option when the game first released, because my experience would have been much better for it. And as the same for the other two, we're going to see if you can spot the difference between both versions, starting in 3, 2, 1. If you guess the image on the left is the Pro version, and the one on the right is the PS5 version, I gotcha. Actually, it's the one on the right that's the Pro version, and the one on the left that's the PS5 version. Gotta keep you guys on your toes with the old switcheroo. But if you did get it correct, congratulations again. I got some Reese cups coming to your address as we speak. Well, not really, but you definitely treat yourself to one of those things. They're fucking awesome. Another title that was heavily advertised for a true PS5 Pro experience is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and the trailers alone don't really do any justice. You can definitely see as much more of a clearer image quality compared to the Plague version that we got earlier this year. As some of you may not already know, Rebirth's performance and frame rate mode was pretty much underwhelming when it came out when it came to the image quality, and I mean, it was really bad. A lot of the background and draw distances were pretty muddied and distorted, and the closer you got up to things, especially with the character models, you can clearly tell there was something going on. But with the added benefits of the PS5 Pro, almost all those problems are non-existent. The biggest difference you can probably tell is the beautiful balance between image quality and frame rate. It runs at a smooth 60 frames per second while still simultaneously using PlayStation 5 Pro's increased power thanks to the PSSR feature, which upscales it to a very impressive 4K resolution, most importantly being that of the absolutely gorgeous environment details and the draw distances. I'm gonna be real with this one, I kinda feel like this game was specifically built for the PS5 Pro in mind, which is still just a bit weird seeing how I still feel the full potential of the base PS5 is yet to be tapped. But the trade-offs you get between the differences of how the game runs on the PS5 Pro and the base PS5, I feel that Square Enix didn't truly take advantage of the PS5 from an optimization standpoint, and the tech in the PS5 Pro isn't drastically different what's in the base system, but the bump in quality is definitely noticeable. Now, I'm not sure if the PS5 Pro was absolutely needed to make this happen, but I can't argue with the results that are shown. But I am still glad I got to enjoy this game with all of its beauty and uncompromised quality. Now let's see if you guys can get this right, starting in 3, 2, 1. The one on the left is the PS5 version, and the one on the right is the PS5 Pro version. Did you get it? Honestly, I hope so, because this one's pretty much a given. And if you didn't, I hear Vision Works is giving free eye exams at the end of the year, so you might want to get that checked out, just saying. Now, Space Marine 2 at the time of making this video doesn't have a PS5 Pro mode just yet, but Saber Interactive did go out on notes that they will be adding it sometime this year. But I wanted to test a few games that didn't have proper Pro support at launch just to see if there's any noticeable differences. And from what I can tell after putting in 103 hours on the base PS5, I came away pretty impressed, mainly by how the performance sticks closer to 60 frames per second on the PS5 Pro. Take a look.
Swapping magazine. Deep scan rate. Changing magazine.
As I noted before, what I mainly got out of the Pro before the patch was a much smoother frame rate experience compared to the base PS5. It was absolutely tanking during large enemy fights, and seeing how some of those games were built from the ground up on hundreds and hundreds of enemies on screen, yeah, that was definitely a problem. It will constantly dip to the mid to low 30s, even on performance mode. I didn't really notice too much of an image quality improvement, but I do believe the native image quality is around 1080p to 1440p, and with the upscaler of FSR up to 4K. I think with the PS5 Pro's 46% GPU increase, it was pretty much brute forcing the game all the way through, which is pretty nice, and that's even before the Pro patch. Time for you guys' favorite game. Let's see if you can get it right, starting in 3, 2, 1. The image on the left is the PS5 Pro version, and the one on the right is the standard PS5 version. I don't blame you much if you got this one wrong. It's something you pretty much damn near have to have your eyeballs pressed up against the screen in order to tell a visual enhancement, but the performance-wise, it's something you definitely can tell in real time. Now, Final Fantasy 16 at this moment has no plans for a PS5 Pro mode, so it's just going to be raw dogging it all the way with this one. The game was noticeable for having frame pacing issues, even on performance mode. It will constantly dip at various parts of the game, especially when you get into hub towns where a lot of NPCs dwelled at, With the extra horsepower the PS5 Pro is packing, I'm looking forward to seeing what's cooking up with this one. Image quality wise, I didn't see too much of an improvement. I'm pretty sure it's there, but it's probably mainly in the draw distances. As for the frame rate, it was pretty much a 10 to 30% improvement. So yeah, it was stable, but just a little bit more compared to the base PS5. It's not quite locked in at that sweet spot for the 60 FPS, so you'll still have to choose between performance and resolution modes. It's probably anywhere between 45 to 55 frames if I'm being honest. Let's see if you guys can spot the difference with this one starting in 3, 2, 1. The one on the right is the PS5 Pro version, and the one on the left is the standard PS5 version. Starting to see any similarities here? The more games I start testing out, outside of the immediate 5, the less obvious the changes were. Which at this point really depends on the type of game you're playing. Now let's move on to the last PS5 game that I'll be showing off. Now the NyQuil master himself, Mark Cerny, personally noted this being one of his favorites when it comes to the ray tracing and upscaler technology. Ratchet & Clank was already a damn looking beautiful game back when it first released 3 years ago, and quite frankly it still looks better than some games that come out nowadays. And I really wanted to see with my own eyes if this man was capping or not, so let's take a look.
Did you see that?
That was rather exciting.
Train has arrived. Ride the train to Bountyville.
This one I found to be about 50-50 when it comes to everything involving the ray tracing, image quality, and performance. PS5's base performance with ray tracing modes, both offering 60 frames per second, that has excellent RG reflections. With the PSSR upscaling taking Ratchet & Clank from 1584p up to full 4K image quality versus 1440p. But this is something you're really gonna have to look for, and depending on your type of display or monitor, unless you have certain points of interest like a side-by-side comparison, you'll be hard pressed to tell the difference on your own. And that seems to be the ongoing biggest theme when it comes to certain games. Some games will look noticeably better, and some you have to be judging your own. Let's see if you guys can tell the difference yourself, starting in 3, 2, 1. The right side is the PS5 Pro version, while the left side is the PS5 version. Mark, I gotta level with you. I can see some improvements on this one, but just barely. But the way he was panning out sounded like it was the cure to insomnia that he put me through during the showcase. Knock it off, bro. I get my nightly 8 hours of sleep as it is. I don't need to make it 9. Alright, now we're getting to the final stretches with some testing on some PS4 games with the improved image enhancer that they touted so much about. And what better game to try that out with none other than Batman Arkham Knight. Now I was a little presumptuous actually thinking the Pro would magically make this thing jump from 30 frames to 60 frames per second, but that's not the case. Mainly Arkham Knight is a CPU intensive game, meaning this thing is going to be locked natively to 30 frames per second on all consoles. But let's see what type of improvements it has anyway.
Because he is deeply, deeply stupid. Thank you. You may now all go on with tedious lives. Tedious lives.
Well, as the name suggests, the PS4 Pro enhancements will mostly give you a clear image quality. Barring some of the PS4 games that probably had a Pro mode, you'll probably see a more stable frame rate running up to 60 frames. Now let's see if you can tell the difference between the PS4 enhancement mode on and off, starting in 3, 2, 1. The left image has the enhanced mode turned on, while the right image has it turned off. You can probably tell by just how legible the text are here. The overall environment happens to look a lot brighter too. Not the main selling point of the PS5 Pro, but still nice to have. Assassin's Creed Odyssey is still one of the best looking games in the franchise. On base PS4 and PS4 Pro, the console was running at a dynamic 1620p resolution, locked at 30 frames. On the base PS5, frame rate was unlocked going up to 60 frames per second, so it's a no-brainer to think you get the same performance out of a PS5 Pro. So let's check it out.
Let's get this on.
This one looks and still runs great. And like Batman before it, environments and color contrast will look a bit more vibrant. Not that the game really needed all those extra enhancements, but a little bit of horsepower doesn't hurt. Now let's see if you guys can spot the difference between both versions. Starting in 3, 2, 1. If you guess the image on the right is the enhanced version and the one on the left is the one turned off, then hats off to you, because honestly I almost got this mixed up when I was doing this review. So good job. Now this one for all intents and purposes was just an experiment I wanted to try. It's Far Cry 3 Classic Edition that was released on the PS3 and 360 that was just ported over to the PS4. There was hardly any improvements from when they moved it over from those systems, so I really wasn't expecting much when it came to the PS5 Pro's image enhancing quality, but I wanted to try it out anyway, so let's take a look. Just like the previous PS4 games, I could tell that the image quality was a bit brighter, which seems to be what the enhancement tool does the most. Since it was marketed to have cleaner image quality, which is definitely a lot by that part, but I can definitely tell that was the biggest difference. Now let's see if you can tell a difference between both images. The image on the right is the enhanced version and the image on the left is the mode turned off. I wasn't expecting much of any improvements, so this could be considered a throwaway, but I want to still take a look anyway. Now at this point in the video, I'm pretty much done with everything I had to show off. But I did want to make a special mention for 2 games in particular, those 2 games being Manhunt and The Warriors, PS2 Classic Editions. These games were re-released back on the PS4 when they first came out. Now when booting these games up, I was greeted with this prompt. I never got this one playing any of the other games when it came to my standard PS5, so this one only occurred on the Pro. And I have to note, even when I turned the enhancement mode off, this error still persisted, so I just wanted to let you guys see for yourself.
I'm taking no chances. Shoot first and ask questions when he's on the ground.
Boy, am I gonna get drunk later.
Honestly, I don't even know how the fuck this is even happening. With this weird graphical glitch that seems to be littered everywhere throughout the 2 games. I tried out Bully and GTA San Andreas editions, and those didn't suffer the same problem at all, so it might just be an isolated issue between these 2 particular titles. Which absolutely sucks for me, because I love The Warriors. It's one of my favorite Rockstar games from that era. I never got a chance to beat Manhunt, which I personally chalked it up to me procrastinating playing it all these years. So just note, you may have a few issues when it comes to certain games within the PlayStation library that may have this issue. Now I'm gonna go on a limb here and say it's probably only regulated to the PS2 classic games on PS4. So if you happen to be into the market and getting some of those games on your PS5 Pro, you might want to reconsider. So now we've come down to my final thoughts on the PS5 Pro. And if you're a console gamer who values simplicity and a seamless plug-and-play experience, then the PS5 Pro is pretty much a solid step up from the base PS5. With the improvement of the PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution, the PSSR technology, which delivers noticeably sharper visuals and smoother frame rates, elevating games like Marvel Spider-Man 2 and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth to new heights. Performance mode finally feels like a real option, without the sacrifices that made it less appealing on the base PS5 model. The first set of games I reviewed demonstrated the most potential of what the PS5 Pro has to offer, but not all PS5 games take complete advantage of the offerings that the Pro has. And if it is there, it's probably something you have to see for yourself with your own eyes for you to be able to make that call. And we can't forget about the biggest controversy the PS5 Pro stirred up on its initial announcement, that being the $800 price tag. And I'm saying $800 to the $700 because it's lacking the disc drive, and for a premium console that's supposed to include all the bells and whistles but missing the optical drive, it really just seems pretty scummy on Sony's part. I also did some research around the time the Pro was announced and found the majority of the PS5 consoles that were sold from the launch of 2020 up until now, majority of those were physical-based systems, meaning that even in the digital age, people are still opting out to pay more up front to have the option to choose physical media. Because at the end of the day, players want to have the ability to have options, so they definitely couldn't include that thing in the box, and I doubt it would have even cost them $15 to include it. If you already own a PS5 and you're happy with its performance, the leap may not feel significant enough to justify the expense. And for those looking to get into PC gaming and thinking about omitting that altogether just to get a Pro, Real talk, you're not gonna find a PC that does what the Pro does for $700, and if money is an issue for you, I personally say to save up additional $600 to $700 and build your own pretty beastly gaming rig, and the overall cost in the long run will end up being much cheaper than on a console. If you're already within the PlayStation ecosystem and want the best gaming console experience, then the PS5 Pro is a pretty good upgrade, provided if you're okay with the price increase and the lack of a disc drive, and quite frankly, this is what we should have got with the initial PS5 back when it launched in 2020. And it's perfect for gamers who want effortless performance without venturing into PC territory. However, if you're thinking about the long game and you're willing to embrace the complexity of PC gaming, investing into a gaming rig may be a better option. With more games launching cross-platform, a gaming PC offers flexibility, unmatched power, and a longer upgrade path. As always, your choice depends on what you value the most: convenience, power, future-proofing, whatever you decide. Happy gaming. I'll catch you guys next week for another episode of Back in My Day. This is Ayo Mega signing out. Have yourselves a damn good Christmas, everybody.